ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for tuning in to Saturday Night Showdown. We have officially gotten all the kinks and the bugs out, and we are ready to bring some awesome Hearthstone action to you tonight. With me, as usual, Wilf. What's going on, Will?
Was that Wilf? I'm now Wilf with an F. I'm doing great, mate. I am doing great. How are you? I mean, I'm excited for tonight. This is like throwdown between his second round, Robert, and Sean is coming in to tackle that. So I can't wait.
Yep.
Can't wait.
Now you know Sean. Obviously, you guys do a bit of Geek and Nerdery together. Does he play a lot of Hearthstone? Do you know, or
he plays it? I played him earlier this week, and I have to say that I beat him in one game, and then he turned around and smacked me very hard in 2 games. Mm-hmm. So depending on what deck he plays, I know one of his decks is pretty mean, pretty vicious. So I don't know. I think he's in for a chance. He's going to give Robert the run for his money.
Mm-hmm. Now we're just going to make sure everything's up and working, the stream, and then we're going to kind of get into it. So you say he's going to give him a run for his money. Is that you're voting for Sean? You think he's going to win, or you think it's just going to make it tough?
Well, he's my co-host, you know. I gotta be cheering him on. But it's gonna. Do you know what? It's gonna be a tough fight, and he knows it. It is gonna be tough. I know that he watched at least twice, maybe more times. Some of Robert's Robert's match from last week, as well as other stuff. So, I think he's got a good feel of where it's going. But what he doesn't know, but what you and I know, is that Robert actually has changed up his decks from last week. So if Sean is thinking that he has the answer, then he really doesn't. So this will be interesting. Robert's coming in from a different angle this week.
Yes, and that's the other thing too is I'm sure he had a lot of more he has game footage to really check on him. He has a lot kind of going out there at this point.
Yeah, he does, and but just looking at the pictures of them right now, they are both deep in thought, and we haven't even kicked it off, so it's gonna be fun. I can't wait. Let's get it rocking, man.
Mm-hmm. So I brought up the pictures so everyone can kind of see the pre-match, serious face. So everyone can kind of see what's going on. We're waiting for the match to kind of get started. A little funny because I said you can go ahead, and I actually got the challenge from PaganGeek. He wanted to play me instead, I guess. Oh,
quick warm-up game.
Yes, he's like, let me beat the poo out of Adam a little bit, and then I can go up against Robert. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead. We're gonna move right over into the game. We're gonna start with the returning ZenStyle to his point of view. If we can switch back and forth, it's not too off. We will, but we're for sure gonna start with him. So he's gonna kind of mulligan down. Get some lower mana cost cards. He has 2 Earthen Ring. Well, I always forget that Earthen Ring. What was it? Shaman in his hands. I'm like, wow.
Yeah. It will come to me in 2 seconds. That's just dropped out of my head too. Wow.
Earthen Ring Farseers.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you, Farseers. I just noticed. So here we go. We see Sean's actually playing his favorite build right now, which is the Shaman. The Shaman. So yeah. It will be interesting to see how this fares. So for me, knowing Sean, that's a strong opener. He's like, I'm going with my big opener right now. This is his favorite deck to play with, and so we shall see. Now, the ZenStyle control, this Paladin build, this one wasn't too different from last week, was it?
No, it was very similar. I think this is like he was kind of telling us ahead of time. He was trying out this control deck a lot in. On the ladder this week, so it's kind of I think it's a little different, but still kind of the basics to what he had last week. Did he take out his Paladin last week? Why am I blanking out?
He did. He didn't bring out his mage, so he must have done.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I'm like, oh yeah, he won. Did he win the first 2 games with his Paladin?
Yeah, I believe so. And then we had to come back for that.
Yep.
So here we go. We see Sean laying down some damage and getting some defense up immediately. Which is, I think, a good move on his part. Very important to get some tanks up, mitigate that damage, and looking at the hand that ZenStyle has right now, The one card that just jumps out at me, he's got that legendary sitting there.
Yep.
Whew.
There's Alexstrasza kind of waiting, either, bring himself back up to 15 if needed, or actually, bring down Sean or PaganGeek.
Yeah. Yep, it can go either way with that. So it's an interesting card to have. Obviously, can't play it for a few more turns, but he's moving in. Now, Sean's just done his AoE.
Yep, Lightning Storm.
And
a Bralan's favorite card, like we've talked about in recent weeks. But he's glad to kind of just clear the board, kind of a fresh start for him with the totem on the table. And then Tyrion Fordring.
Oh, yeah! Zen is really getting the hand here. One thing I feel I'm missing this week is the lack of leopard gnomes. There's no leopard gnomes on the table right now.
This is, I think, the first game we haven't had a leopard gnome out in the at least first 2 rounds, maybe first round period.
No, I'm pretty sure anytime Bralan was playing, that was always he had some weird luck. It always seemed was his hand. So
yeah, and it is really interesting. A different play style really from Sean. After the game last week, we heard Robert say, "Yeah, you kind of show your hand a little bit with those leopard gnomes, saying, hey, I'm going to be a little aggressive." So I think Robert's he's not sure exactly what to make of Sean's deck at this point. It's not the hyper aggressive that Bralan came out with his shaman.
Now, just so you can see both hands, not our viewers can't see both hands right now. But what are you making of what Sean has in his hand versus what Robert has in his?
Well, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to show everybody so they can kind of see his, because they're actually almost spot on in terms of time. It's really nice. So he was able to lightning bolt the Gnomish Engineer. He has, he has some overdrive in his hand. I think one of the best cards in the game, the Fire Elemental in his hand, and he has the Hex kind of waiting. That's strong. Tyrion comes out. I'm holding Hex for Tyrion. He doesn't know he has him in his hand, but a Tyrion. Alexstrasza, once she's already come out, she's kind of done her damage.
Yeah.
She's affected someone's health in good or for the bad. So I would kind of hold off. I would wait for kind of a bigger threat.
I think one thing that Sean would have learned just from watching last week is that Robert does have legendaries. He's not legendary light in them. Although it's interesting because we get to see again from the other side how he's built his decks. But based upon what he saw last week, he knows it's in there, so he knows he's gonna want something big to take out or be ready for incoming.
Yep. I really like how he brings out the Unbound Elemental and then immediately plays the card with man, I'm having a horrible night with words today. With the overdrive. I keep wanting to call it overdrive at this point.
Yep, yeah, the overload to get the buff. Yeah, it's basically to get your buff, which was actually gives him a weapon as well.
Right.
So this gives him now.
It makes it a better trade with the Farseer. It means he kills the Farseer, where before both of them live, and Farseer can take him out in subsequent rounds, no problem.
But here we go. We get to see Avenging Wrath. Yeah, and that's important. Dealing with that straight away. One thing Robert knows is he can see now that there is threat on the table. Sean is going to be throwing that threat out, and he's not going to hold back at this point. So he knows he needs to get stuff off the table really, really quick. And there's a powerful card now.
Bring out the Fire Elemental.
Yeah, and there we see it. There we see Alexstrasza out there.
Ooh,
which
just a little before us.
Yeah, oh dear.
It's okay.
There, I slipped ahead, but there we go. But you called it. He's actually putting the damage down on Sean. That was your suggestion earlier on that he would probably go with that. Yep. And I think that was the best move for it, because now he can start to lay down some big damage and go for the throat.
Yeah, but I'm switching it over so you guys can go ahead and see kind of ZenStyle's view with Alexstrasza out. Now you have Alexstrasza, you have some Feral Spirits coming on the board now, so you have some serious defense. And here comes that Hex for Alexstrasza. Like I said, it's a tough one to pull, but I guess he clears it up, and he can hit 6 straight to him. That's helpful.
Yeah, and so here we go. Now, I don't want to speak too far ahead, but you can really feel he wiped the board. Yeah, that's a tough move. Tough pill to deal with at that point.
Yeah, I think one thing we should kind of talk in the future is that happened so fast. That's how I didn't even see all the cards that he put out to do that.
No,
be like play it out a little bit. I think that's something we're kind of learning as we go. But he was able to clear it out. The Wild Pyromancer is now out on the board for PaganGeek, and let's see kind of what's going to happen here.
Now, the interesting thing, so I can see here, which we can't see in the stream, but PaganGeek does have a Leroy Jenkins in his hand, which is, that's his first legendary that's pulled up on this side. Be interesting to see if and when he'll use it. But that's a good point to note.
That second hex now key.
Yeah, absolutely
right
key.
Because he's able to take control of Tyrion. Because Tyrion, he's like a triple threat. He has, he's hard to kill. He has the Divine Shield, so you actually have to, what I consider, kill him twice to really be effective. And when you kill him, you give him a great weapon to kind of go forward with, So it's good that he was able to hex that, When we last kind of switched, he only had one hex in his hand, and now we saw two. The Frostwolf leader is just gonna, get big with what's out there, the Warlord.
Interesting move there. Shaw just made a very slight error. He pulled out the guy who gets buffed.
The Warlord. Yep.
Yep. He pulled them out just before he actually put his he played his hero card. Yeah, which would have given him one more. And I think he got a little carried away there. He's probably kicking himself for it, but in the end, hopefully that doesn't cost him. It'd be interesting to see. There we go, the Black Knight. Yeah. That's one way to push in hard.
So now, you're looking at, PaganGeek has 3 health left. He's not gonna be able to clear the board. What do you think? It's pretty much done here, or do you think he's got something in his hand that can deal with this? Because we're not looking at his hand right now.
No, I don't think there's anything that he can do to turn the tide too much at this point. But he's going to certainly give it his best, and he's going to bring him down.
The taunt right there helps a ton, But I don't know if it helped enough. He actually went ahead and went for the face instead of going for the kind of the safe, what I would consider the safe bet by taking out his enemies. The
and the fact that he didn't have any heals, I felt like if he'd had an extra card in there, maybe he would have been in a better place. But that was a very, very good first round. It was tight. That was pretty tight.
No, that was a great close match.
Yep.
What do you think he's going to pull out in this next match now that he's seen that the Pally's right there? You think he's going to pull out his Druid, or you think he's going to go Pally for Pally?
I think he will go Druid. He will probably show me up and pick the other one, but I think he will go with his Druid. Now, an interesting thing, so he wasn't going to play his Pally originally, and we talked about this before we went live. He actually had a mage build that he'd been working on that he was really excited for, and he forgot that he put the Pally one in there. So he called me up and said, hey, what was that Pally build? I got to rebuild it because I deleted it. So I then told him what his build was that he sent to us. So it'll be interesting to see what he pulls up, and he does. He goes with the Druid.
So we're gonna switch views over right now. We're gonna kind of see what he's up to with his starting hand. Getting rid of those high mana costs, keeping Wrath in his hand. I think that's a pretty good choice. And ZenStyle kind of doing something similar. I would assume. Kind of keeping some be able to play. However, for Sean, he got rid of those high mana cards and they just replaced them right back.
Yeah. Oh, they did. Well, and that's tough start right there. Now, and he didn't get any innovates, which just makes it all the harder, and still not getting them.
No, he's not really getting much in terms of cards he can play yet. What is it? 3 5 mana costs, 2 6 mana costs. He's in a little bit of trouble, I think, in terms of just what cards he has in his hand and not relying on top decking stuff to play.
Now, ZenStyle, I can see him here. ZenStyle, aka Robert, has his hood over his head. He is channeling his Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I do know that. He's just taking it off.
You just jinxed it.
Just jinxed it. He had the hood up there for a moment, and Sean is very much a fan of the Sith. I just thought that was quite nice to have that Jedi versus Sith as we go down here, and looking at ZenStyle's hand, he's got a couple of strong tanks there. In his hand, he's got one on the board and one in his hand, so it's going to be tough for this Druid to get through. and it'll be interesting to see where it goes.
Yeah, I was gonna say what I think he really needs is in order to get this druid kind of rolling, he's gonna need to start drawing some. He pulls out his Novus Engineer to draw, but he's gonna deal 3 damage to the Shield Master. Yeah. It's a good choice. You gotta get him off the board, and then remove him with your Shield Master. So it's almost a good trade.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely, it is a good trade, and it's something that's then easily dealt with. Unfortunately, with the Consecrate, just lays 1 damage down, but that does just again clear the board of PaganGeek's front line.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but at this point, we're starting to get into the point where PaganGeek is going to start being able to afford the cards that are in his hand. He's kind of kept it even, kind of leading up to this, so he's gotten some luck there.
And I think Robert will know that. Robert will know that the druids tend to be bigger later on. So he's going to be keeping that in mind, and we can see that he's actually got a silence safely in his hand too for anything big that comes out. But it's interesting to see what we take on with this.
Yeah, he's going to clear the board. You just swipe to clear it out. The nice thing is, look at his hand. He has a lot of direct damage. 2 Starfires. That's a decent amount of damage. 2 Azure Drakes.
Now, would you get that Azure Drake out next? What you could really hope for is getting those, an Innovate out so that he can actually up the damage of his Starfires.
Well, I think depending on what he picks. At this point, I would still go with the Ascension Shield Master. Wait until I get to 10 and then put both Azure Drakes out there, so that way you kind of get the buffs to the Starfires.
Okay, so do you feel he's got a little greedy there? Because just as you said that, you jinxed him and pulled them into
exactly.
going for an extra card.
Yeah, I don't know. I like waiting and seeing how many big creatures I can put out at once.
Right.
Now we're Ragnaros is out. That's going to be it's going to be rough. He's going to have to kind of go right after him. There's nothing else he can do. He needs to get rid of him.
That's right, and he's going to have to. Starfire is the one card he can get. He can only hope for an Innovate.
See, I would go. What he really, I think, needs to put out an Azure Drake to start, because or even his Sunwalker. Get the Sunwalker out there so that next turn he can take care of Ragnaros. Because if he doesn't put a creature out this turn, he's not going to be able to take care of Ragnaros in time.
But on the flip side, Rags could then kill whatever he puts out anyway. So it's a tough call at this point.
Well, that's why you go with the Divine Shield, just in case.
Divine Shield, right? Yep, there we go. And you can only hope at that point that that Rags is going to be nice.
Yes. No, although I think you did say he had a silent in his hand, ZenStyle.
Yeah, so he does.
I think he's going to silence him probably, and
and there we go.
Then it's up to Rags to take care of him. He can hope that he hits him, but you never know.
Either way, it's a strong point for Robert, and there we go. We see it being laid down straight at the hero. So this is a tough place for Sean right now, for PaganGeek.
Yep, for sure. Now we're gonna see what he's gonna do with this. I don't know. He's gonna have to. I don't think he's gonna call a good game.
Yeah, and he's gonna concede. He's thinking about it. It looks like he is. Yeah.
Yep. Okay, so that puts Zen up 2-0.
Brutal.
The ability to get his legendaries out has really showed in this.
Yeah.
The legendaries have definitely helped to kind of push him to the win because, it looks pretty even, and then Ragnar comes out, and it's like, oh, now you got to deal with Ragnaros properly. I think in the last game he dealt with the 2 legendaries perfectly. He had the 2 hexes.
You know what, though? I have to say, Sean had some rotten luck because we know that he had 2 Innovates in his hand. He had 2 Wild Growths in his hand. We didn't see any of the Innovates, I don't think, come out. We didn't see the Wild Growth come out until towards the end. So that was kind of unlucky. An unlucky card draw. And even at the start there, I think he replaced, if not most of his cards, all of them, only to be given high cards again. So it was a rough start. So we'll see now. It's Pally against Pally.
Yes. Now, trying to think how their Pally decks actually are pretty similar. I think
they are very similar.
Yeah, some very kind of key cards that are similar. They both have Ragnaros in them. They both have Tyrion Fordring in them.
Yeah.
I think, we're going a little more for damage with Sean's. A little bit more damage. Where we know that Robert's kind of playing this control pally deck really well.
What will be now if you were coming into this? You just lost a couple of games. What would be coming through your mind? What would be that you've taken playing Robert? If you could get inside Sean's head right now, or if you was in Sean's team, what would you do to like? Okay, I've got to try and throw Robert off a little bit here. What would be your move?
I'm not even too sure, just because I'm not. I haven't played a lot of Paladin in my time, so I'm not really sure. Honestly, I that's probably the one deck I play the least.
The least, okay.
Yeah, but I like to start with getting the Knife Juggler out there. That's you get out your reinforcements, and you're doing just a little bit more than just dealing damage.
Right.
I mean, getting a reinforcement out, you're dealing damage as well.
Right.
In terms of strength, Consecration takes care of them, pretty easily. I know, when I have played a Paladin and I have Concentration in my hand, I think I wait too long to use it. Sometimes
right. Yeah.
Robert here, he has no problem using it to kind of clear an early board.
I do the same. I'm one of those people that okay, I'm gonna wait until they build up a whole bunch of guys, and then I get overwhelmed and regret it later. He's smart. He's just like, I've got that card. I'm gonna use it, even if it's just on 2 guys. So it's interesting to see, looking at both of their hands, and just sort of give everybody a heads up that they both have a Rags sitting in their hands. So come turn 8, it's going to be interesting to see where that goes.
Oddly enough, I would prefer if I obviously seeing both hands helps, but you want to be the second person to put Rags out.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, you absolutely do.
We have another Knife Juggler. He's going with the Knife Juggler there. So you'll see if he lasts a turn. I don't think he'll last too long. I think the Ascension Shield Master is going to probably go after him next turn, because you can't just let one damage constantly be coming at you.
No. It becomes pretty. You have no idea if they've got a lot of low cards, which then just equals a lot of pain, particularly in these high levels.
And, he heals Ascension in order to keep him up. The Farseer is able to keep him up there. It's good to have the strong front line. Let's see. Yeah,
this is an interesting play, and one of the things that PaganGeek's thinking about here is get some healing back on himself, get himself into a better position, and that's exactly what he goes for.
Yeah, pulls out the Guardian Kings. Now, do right away turn 8 toss out Rags? I mean, he's gonna have 8 mana before Robert. What do you do?
That's a tough one, but with Robert pulling out Tyrion, you almost feel like you need to. Is he being forced into that? But it's a tricky thing. He did get very lucky with a card being dealt there, which was his owl, Iron Beak Owl, which gives silence. So that means that he can just deal with Tyrion in a slightly bigger way.
Yeah, I would silence Tyrion. Period. Yep,
that's the thing you've got to do,
because you can't have the Ashbringer coming out.
No, absolutely not.
No.
Yeah, that becomes problematic at that point. So deal with that now, and you'll feel better a little bit later on. And the other thing we can see sitting next to who we got? Have we got PaganGeek up, or we got ZenStyle up?
We're watching ZenStyle. We've kind of flipping back and forth. Avenging Wrath just went off.
So everyone would have seen when they saw PaganGeek in there, what was sitting just to the left of his Rags, which really will bring some interesting play should Rags come out. So this becomes interesting.
Yep, and there it is. There's Ragnaros coming
there he
on
does
out.
Come out.
So, of course, it hits the reinforcements.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Tyrion would have been a good one. Hitting him directly would have been, just as good. But reinforcements. That's the strength of the Paladin, though. You can constantly put out that reinforcement, so there's always a chance that that you don't get hit.
Yeah, and my goodness me, the tide changes very quickly at that point.
Yep, and here he is. He's going to change his health to 1.
Yeah. And he'll probably consecrate. He'll lay that down. Yeah, that's brutal. That's absolutely brutal.
Mm-hmm. It's those combos, the Paladin definitely has those combos out there that just clear the board. It's not like you have the Twisted Nether for like a Warlock where you just clear the board, everything gone.
Yeah.
It's 2 cards, a little less mana, and it clears just their side. So it's definitely a solid removal tool.
This becomes a tricky place to be in right now. What are you thinking? What needs to be done at this point? What steps does PaganGeek need to be taking right now?
I kind of switched over so people can kind of see what PaganGeek's up to at this point. I don't even know really, because if you look what's in his hand, he has the Ooze. That's not going to do much. He does have Big Game Hunter, so he's holding on to Big Game Hunter. That'll take care of Rags as quick as possible. Jenkins, Leroy Jenkins, that's a good thing to have right now. I don't know what I would do in his part. Double a minion's attack. He could put Jenkins out, double his attack. That might be the move I choose at this point.
Yeah, but you're having to trade off. Do I hand them, another couple of points to do that? Oh, yeah, it's a pretty sweet move, I think. Yep. Bringing down the attack power of the Black Knight.
Yep. So he just does, one attack. But he's got to use his mana. You can't just can't hold and not use your mana, because I think that's where you kind of start to fall behind when you don't use all of your mana.
Yeah.
That's at your disposal. I guess that's kind of obvious, but.
I think he needs to do it. I think he's hovering over it. He needs to do it. That's the. He's letting that timer go down. What's he gonna do?
It's like he's trying to build suspense.
Yeah, that's great. I love it.
Yep, and then he's gonna
fabulous.
He's gonna take the Black Knight out. I don't know. Yeah. I probably would go for Zen. Make him
for the face.
Make him take out the Jenkins. Because now he's gonna be able to kill him with just one dragon.
Yeah, and this also means then. The question is, what will he pull out at this point? And he's pulling out the Drake, which lays down. He's going to lay down a damage and a heal to himself. Yep,
and the True Silver Champion. He's going to get a little bit of healing, even though he's going to take 3 damage. He's going to be like 1 overall heal for him. So it's a good trade.
Yeah, it is.
He's going to get rid of the weapon. Having those in hand, that's perfect at this point.
Yes.
Bringing down. Look at this. I think he's doing what he needs to do to kind of stay in the game.
He's clinging on. Yeah. This is
and he's gonna be able to handle Ragnaros still. He still has that Big Game Hunter.
Yeah, he does.
Definitely don't count him out of this game yet. The only thing that I see happening that could be bad is the Drake hits him for 1, and then Ragnaros comes and randomly hits him properly.
Yeah, which would be very unfortunate. And he's be able to get some heals on himself too.
He heals, draws cards, and kind of just puts him in a strong position. Honestly, he has so many cards in his hand. There's not much.
Not too many. There's no taunts. There's nothing to mitigate the damage right now. That becomes slightly problematic, but. What do you do? What do you go for at this point? Are you going to go for taking out some hits? Oh, there we go. That's interesting. Going to put some Divine Shield up on a double minion health.
Yep.
And he's going straight to the face.
If you're going to double his health, you have to hit him in the face. You can't double and then not hit him.
No.
I think that puts it in, some choices in Zen's hand, because that double minion plus what else is out there gives him enough to, kind of kill him. And, obviously getting that True Silver Champion now wins the match for him.
Man, that was brutal.
He was coming back in there, too. It was getting pretty close, so...
Yeah, you know what? I really felt he had a good run there. Really good run.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and... I think they can hear us now. I can start hearing some noises. What's going on, guys?
That was an epic beatdown I just received. I feel like I should have paper napkins with blood hanging out of my nose. That was an epic beatdown.
I don't know, man. I thought you were coming back in that last one. It looked like you. I wasn't drawing into any more board removal. That that lay on hands was pretty much a last ditch. Like, hey, can I get something to deal with this?
I was hoping against hope I was gonna pull either Rags or maybe a true silver champion and Captain Greenskin.
Yeah.
And I couldn't top deck anything in these 3 games, man. And I made 2 really bad rookie mistakes in the first few games. So
the Paladin deck that I have is pretty punishing if you do make a mistake. I will say it's slow, but it's pretty brutal sometimes.
Now, Sean, you had absolutely rotten luck with your Druid build. Like, you had no cards to play forever.
I could top deck. I got no innervates. I couldn't get anything to come out on that deck. And that's been that way all day for me on that deck. For whatever reason, I just couldn't get a damn card out of that deck today.
Mm-hmm. No, we were just saying, it's like, oh, get rid of the high mana cards, and then boom, more high mana cards.
Yeah,
right?
Rough start.
I even tried drawing cards, and I got zilch.
Mm-hmm. No, Sean, why did you go and start with your Shaman deck? Any specific reason?
Honestly, that has been the deck that I have owned with. That deck right there and that build, I have owned with that deck. And I don't know, I just kind of felt like, I play a Shaman in Warcraft as my main. I thought the love of Thrall is with me tonight. Mm-hmm. So it was... Yeah, it happens. This is all in good fun. And Robert, that was an epic beatdown you gave me there, sir. Epic.
Yeah. It was
fun matches.
It was crazy because we were like, and then especially in the last match, like they both can play Ragnaros. It was pretty crazy. We were like, what's gonna happen? I'm like, who puts him out first? And
it was like on turn 3 or turn 4. I noticed that you both had Rags in there. And it may have been sooner, but that's when I noticed you both had Rags. And it was a case of whoever plays him first, is that the advantage? Is that the disadvantage? And obviously you had the big game hunter sitting in there, Sean. So it's like, if it comes out...
Game hunter, man.
A couple of times there, I did feel you had a really good chance of pulling back, particularly with both the Shaman deck and at the end of the Pally deck. The Druid, I'm not going to lie, I kind of gave up hope for you when I saw how your draws were going, but I really thought you had a chance.
That draw was just terrible.
Robert, what was your change? I know you made a few changes between this week and last week. What was your thinking behind those changes?
To be honest, last week I was playing Druid on ladder pretty heavy, and so it's just the deck that I was feeling really good about. This week I went back to the Control Paladin deck I built. The Druid is actually not one that I created, the Druid Charge deck. It was made by another player named Dog, who is he finishes like top 3 in NA every month. And I really liked his deck because it's a way more aggressive Druid deck than you tend to see. And then this week I just kind of wanted to play my Paladin deck. So I'm playing that on ladder. I felt, really good about it. It's a deck that I think has success because you don't ever see it. Mm-hmm. You don't ever see Control Paladin anymore, and it's kind of one of those things where that gives you a huge element of surprise. There was a really good play in the Paladin versus Shaman match where Sean just pretty much threw down a bunch of stuff on the board, and it was one of those things where I kind of the turn before I played pretty conservatively because I knew I had Equality and Wild Pyromancer, which is just a board wipe. It wipes everything off the board. So I wanted to see if I could maybe coax him into playing more stuff. And since he hadn't seen the deck yet, he had no idea that was a thing I would do. And so I got him to throw down the Spirit Wolves and just a bunch of decent sized stuff. And then I was just kind of well, done.
You have no idea how disheartening that was.
That's what this deck is supposed to do. It's supposed to just kind of sit there and not really do much and just not seem that imposing and then just drop a haymaker. Mm-hmm. And then the other person's especially against Shamans, I really like this deck against Shamans in general. It was just kind of it was fortunate that that was your first thing you played because not only do you play a bunch of your cards that you lose with the combo, but you're also overloading yourself.
Right.
So your recovery turn is not really very much of a recovery. And Paladin has access to so many board clears. It can Equality Consecrate, which is, if you want to keep your board and swing to the face, basically. It can Equality Avenging Wrath, which is kind of a finishing move. And then it can Equality Wild Pyromancer, which wipes the entire board, but on turn 10 still leaves you 6 mana to repopulate the board. And in my deck I have like some decent low tier beater minions like Earthen Ring Farseer. I have a Senjin Shield Master or 2 Senjin Shield Masters. Like I have good minions to get back on the board. So I really like Control Paladin. It's a style I feel comfortable in.
Adam brought up an interesting point, and it's a mistake that he said he makes. I know that I make, which is that when I have a Consecrate, I tend to sit on it. He said he tends to sit on that a little bit to use it when you can take out more minions. You used it in that third game. You used it very early on, where you just had the hero power and one other card out to take them out.
Yeah.
You seem to have no qualms about using this big AoE ability to bring them down, and it clearly works because we're saying how we hold on, we can use this, and then we end up like losing the game. What goes through your brain if we can sort of tap into that? Not to give any too many secrets away, but what's your thinking behind it?
At that point, he played a first knife juggler. I want to say that might have been the first or the second. I'm not sure, but it was one of those things where like. When I looked at my hand, my turn 5 plays were either drop a Senjin or play the Consecrate. And because my deck has so many board clears, to be honest, it probably was a mistake. Like I think Senjin might have been the safer play. It's just one of those things where like I wanted to be done with the Knife Juggler phase of the game. Like Knife Juggler is just one of those cards like I don't like on the board. It can really quickly turn things against you. And I mean, the luxury of playing as a Paladin is that you make the tokens, which are just basically like small sponges for darts. But it's one of those things where, to be honest, like I probably should have played the Senjin. But I think at that point, like, I have kind of this natural aversion to the idea that, like, on turn 6, my opponent's going to play Black Knight. Right. So if I play down a taunt, then he plays Black Knight. Like, that's just, it's always such a radical tempo swing to where, like, at that point, I'm like, okay, I have, like, a million board clears in this deck. Consecration just actually clears the board here alone. Like, I'd rather, like I said, let's get past the Knife Juggler, and let's actually start playing the rest of the game.
I got to say, from my end of the game, my perspective, Robert, I was amazed at how effectively you were able to heal yourself on that.
Yeah, that's what the deck does. It does that.
That was pretty amazing to me.
The one major weakness of the deck is that if it doesn't draw into its combos, it's really susceptible to just getting beat down. Like Chillwind Yetis give me fits. My only answer to like a Chillwind Yeti or a beater minion like that is to try to get a token left out on the board and then have True Silver. Because that's pretty much all I can do to deal with like those big minions. Honestly, at the end of game 1, you put down a Frostwolf Commander, I believe, I want to say. And that one I was just kind of like, I had some options, and I was just like, well, I'm not going to trade into it. I'm just going to go for the face, because I was like, I don't think there's any way he can do that much damage. And to be honest, had I not Holy Lighted, like I think you would have gotten pretty close with the Leroy play. And it's just one of those things where those big minions, I either have to combo off the board or just like, because this version of my deck doesn't run Big Game Hunter, because on ladder right now it's so much like Miracle Rogue and so much Zoo to where you just don't really run into like Handlock much, which is the reason you run Big Game Hunter. That said, I missed him against the Rag, and it's funny, like I didn't know if you had a Big Game Hunter in your hand in that third one, but like when I looked at my options, I really wanted to play Ragnaros, but the problem is if you play Ragnaros and you get one swing off of it, and it doesn't do exactly what you want it to do, and then your opponent turns around and tech cards it out with a Big Game Hunter, you're so far backwards in terms of tempo that it was never a risk I felt comfortable taking. I had options to deal with that Blessed Champion 4/4 that you made into an 8/4 with the bubble. I had an owl in my hand. Like I top decked True Silver and just swung face, but I had different options to deal with it. But I never wanted to play Ragnaros simply because I didn't know your deck. And that's kind of the interesting thing about these exhibition matches is you see like a lot of cool like custom made decks, but in ladder, you pretty much always know the deck list you're against.
Right. Whereas, I'll be honest, I went back and watched your matches last week, and I put Big Game Hunter in there intentionally.
Yeah, I run a lot of big creatures. I run a lot of the big game hunterable creatures. Actually, I was very upset you dealt with my my legendary so handily as the shaman. I hate hacks. And I thought for sure that second legendary drop was going to stick. And then, like, I put out Tyrion. I was like, here comes Ashbringer. Nope.
That was a sweet move, yeah.
You dealt with Tyrion both times.
Hey, if people ever say Hearthstone's a pay-to-win game, tell Hex. Because Hex doesn't agree.
Yeah.
Oh, Hex is brutal,
Hex
man.
is like 1,600 dust. I was free. Hex
has been the recipient of a Hex a time or two on me.
Oh, frustrating.
Like, I played out that Alex Draws, and I was like, enjoy my 8/8 dragon, and Hex was like, it's a frog. I was like, I don't feel like it's a frog, but it is a frog.
You played that out, and I thought, oh, really? Watch this.
Well, the funny thing was, is you played a fire elemental and you did 3 damage to me. So you spent 6 mana, made a 6/5 that did 3 damage to me. I spent 9 mana to make an 8/8 that did 6 damage to you. I was like, who shamans who?
Now that Frostwolf you mentioned about the Frostwolf move. I think, and Sean, you mentioned about the sort of the rookie mistake. I think that was probably your first mistake that you made was you played him and then you played your token. Which if you played your token first, it'd have given you he had the strength of 9, not 8.
Yeah.
In my head, I was like, we were like, oh man, he just missed that, and I think you obviously felt it too.
I played actually the one that really bothered me in the shaman game was I played the minion where if you I can't think of the minion's name off the top of my head now. Where if you overload, he gets bigger.
Oh, the Unbound Elemental.
Yep.
Yeah, I lightning bolted something that was on the board, and then I played the Unbound Elemental, and I thought, well, you idiot, you should have done that exactly the opposite. So that was the one that really ate at me.
Mm-hmm. That was actually, honestly, I think, to be fair, I think that was kind of big, because then I Avenging Wrath, and I got the Unbound Elemental down to 3, and I traded it out with the Earthen Ring Farseer.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So to be honest, if it had another health, like I wouldn't have been able to do that. Those turns against Shaman are so awkward where they have a bunch of totems on the board and then like a buffed Unbound Elemental, because that's really where Paladin struggles, because realistically, if you use a combo that's 2 cards you're throwing out to basically deal with 1, and then tokens. So it's always awkward.
If your deck comes out right in a Shaman, that Unbound Elemental can get big quick.
Oh no, I've lost to just like a turn 3. No, it was a turn 2 coin Unbound Elemental, followed by a bunch of buffing, and I never drew anything to deal with it. I literally just sat there like I would Holy Light myself, take 6 damage. Holy Light myself, take 7 damage. Like, Unbound Elemental is a freakishly good card.
Yeah.
It's right there with, like, I think that, Spirit Wolves, and, the Fire Elemental really make Shaman.
Yeah, the Fire Elemental is just an excellent card. I think it's like one of my favorites when I play my Shaman. So I think that's going to do it for tonight. Robert, good job. You've won 2 in a row. Now we have to get like a challenge for you if you're going to be able to make it next week. Oh, I have to think. Ooh.
Honestly, everyone's a challenge. It just comes down to playing.
Oh, I know. I'm not saying it, but I mean, I gotta be like, I need to get a hold of Trump. No, I'm just kidding.
Dude, Trump has thoroughly kicked my ass 3 times when I run into him on ladder. So if you bring Trump, I will literally lose.
But tell you what, man, I want that Druid game back, because that was just.
Dude, I've had those games. That's the problem with Ramp Druid, right? If you don't draw the Innervates or the Wild Growths, and then you're just stuck with all these high mana cards, and you're like, man, I can't wait till turn 17 when the game starts.
Right.
Okay.
See, I think I mulliganed every card in my hand at the start of that match, hoping for an Innervate.
You did. Yeah, you did. Yep. You did, and then you drew high cards.
Yep.
Yeah.
You're like, I would just want cards that cost less than 5, and then you got cards that cost 5.
I conceded that game. I got to some point on it, and I was like, there's
Ragnaros was out there, and I knew his Druid. You literally had no answer. I was like, no, he's playing Druid. There's no Hex here.
Yeah, nothing.
It was literally like, you have no power here.
Powers are weak, old man. So.
Yeah, pretty much.
Robert, to not to sort of give anyone any tips next week. I don't even know who we're playing yet. But what's the one deck you fear, or what one class that you fear the most?
Well, right now, probably Rogue, just because of Miracle Rogue. Any other Rogue, like Tempo, Aggro, I can handle it. Miracle Rogue is just literally I either have to have Pyromancer equality or I lose. And even then, sometimes I still lose. So it's kind of one of those things, my deck can beat it, but it's just, I always feel comfortable in matchups where I know exactly what's going to happen, except in that matchup. Because unlike Control Warrior, where you can give yourself just a bunch of extra HP, Paladin can heal, but it only heals up to 30. And if you can do 30 damage in one turn, which a Miracle Rogue can, it doesn't matter.
Firsthand. So.
Yeah, I would say Rogue, or in a pinch, if I'm playing Paladin, probably Warlock, because Zoo sometimes just run you over.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You don't have the right cards, but yeah. Sean, honestly, I had a bunch of fun with the games, man.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. I had a bunch of fun playing you. Thanks so much, man. It's I will certainly take this and put it into my Hearthstone encyclopedia about some knowledge, especially on that Pally deck.
Yeah, no problem, man. I'm probably gonna. I think the Paladin deck. I need to at some point actually sit down and write a deck list article about how it works and everything.
Yeah, it works really well. I was very impressed. So
it's mean spirited, is what it is.
So that'll do it for us tonight, guys. I want to thank everybody for listening. Thank people for playing. Thank people for showing up live. Remember, we're brought to you by World of Podcast. Thursday, November 6th, 2014, the day before BlizzCon, 6:30 p.m. to 11:30 p.m. at the Hilton in Anaheim. We'll talk to you guys all later, and we will be back next week. Goodbye, everyone.
Okay.